What's up, everybody? It's another episode of Off the Yard, and I am, as always, your humble host. Today we're going to talk about my experience with one of the most heinous child killers that I was ever privy to come across when I was in a place called Beaumont. And so this is not for the faint of heart as usual. Get your popcorn. Get your sodas, and let's get it. I want to say thanks again for tuning in. I'm Big Lance, and it's been a while. It's been a while since we actually made a video that isn't a live feed with me screaming into my phone on the way to work. I'm glad you guys are here, and I hope that you enjoy the video. Now, I am going to forewarn people, if you have small children who are going to be watching, or you have anybody who, you might not want to hear certain things, send them out of the room, but watch for yourself, because you need to hear the realest, and that's what we are. Much love to the Gladiator Gang, Blue Collar Kings. Let's go. So, Beaumont, Juvenile Prison, state of Virginia. This was where, in the 90s, 80s and 90s, this is where the worst of the kids went. This is where kids went when they had violent crimes, when they couldn't be housed in other in juvenile facilities because parents and the administration were terrified of them. These crimes, consisted of, rape. They consisted of murder. They consisted of serial killers. I mean, it was crazy. The people that were around you on a day-to-day basis as a child, as a 14, 15-year-old child, you're walking around baby Dahmers. You're walking around baby Bundys, baby Mansons, all of the above. Then, on top of it, not only did you have those guys, but you had the baby Hoovers. You had the baby Crip, Blood, and so forth and so on. Now, there weren't so many gangs, quote-unquote, back then as there were cities. And this is what it was for me when I was coming up in there. Was you had the NVAs, which was Northern Virginia. You had Richmond. They called it the city. You had the Seven Cities, which was the Tidewater area. You had Hampton and Virginia Beach. And then you had, these little teeny groups of people who were from out like Lynchburg and out Southwest Virginia, things like that. But the main characters were the Northern Virginia, DMV, Richmond, Seven City, Tidewater area. And when one of those guys went, they all went. And when they all went, the other side went. When the other side went, this side went. And it would be a full-on riot. Now, let me explain the differences between a riot in a juvenile facility and a riot as an adult. The one thing about juveniles that you don't forget is that they have a lot of no fucks given. They don't care. They're juveniles. In their mind, they're not going to get a life sentence. They're going to get let out no matter what they do when they're 21. That's juvenile life. They're going to do what they want to do. A lot of those people were shown a different outcome. But now, when I was at Beaumont, there were cottages. And they went down like a boulevard type deal. At one end was your cafeteria. The other end was your school. Then you had this middle area, which is like a rec field. But at this time, well, sort of towards the end of my bid, I was there for a few years, but towards the end of it, they were breaking ground to what would be the new Beaumont, which would be more of a prison-styled environment. Now, I've talked about this place before, so a lot of y'all already know, when you went into one of these cottages, it was an upstairs and a downstairs. The downstairs was your basement area, and that was where you had your rec area, quote unquote. Upstairs was a nice area that had like a carpet maybe, and bunk beds that ran all the way to the back of the building. which is basically a warehouse. And at the front would be a desk, and the desk would be where the guard would sit, right? But the guard wasn't always there. Then you had a shoe room. The shoe room is where we caught wreck. That's where we went to fight. I'll meet you in the shoe room. Took many ass beatings in that shoe room, gave out a couple myself. But you also had, in a couple of the cottages, you had these timeout rooms. Now, say me and you are playing cards, and we're getting ready to get into it. We stand up, we're ready to fist the cuffs. Let's throw the dukes. You're going to go in the timeout room. You could be in there for an hour. You could be in there 4 hours. You could be up in there for up to, I think, 12 hours. Other than that, you were going over to Spradlin Cottage, and you would be there for 24 to 72 hours. You'd be stripped down to your underwear. You'd sit down there on a blue mat on the floor. Not very sanitary. Boogers, jizz, cum, all that shit all over the walls. And you are in there for days. You're not coming out. Now, we had up on the hill, you had your main areas. And like up on the hill, there was these other cottages. They were called Shear, Bryan, and Crow. Shear, Bryan, and Crow were that's where they kept kind of more high profile. They kept these sex offenders up there, and they had mental case, it was people that had mental issues and things like that. But I'll never forget one particular kid. I don't remember specifically the name of the kid. Everybody just called him Chop. And they called him Chop for a reason. The story goes that he was from an area near, like, out west, like, towards Tennessee area, which talking about Pound, Virginia, Wise County, Bland, I think, is out there. It's very rural area. Then you got West Virginia right on top of you. So you got this very rural part of Virginia near the Appalachian Mountains, man. And, where the high money-making commodity is hunting ginseng for a couple months out of the year. Coal mining and shit. You know what I mean? We're like shit that we don't know much about out here. It's a different world. It's a different mentality. It's very secluded. It's very lonely. So I can imagine coming up as a child, trying to live in an environment where you're secluded a lot would really fuck your developmental stages up. I guess it would me anyway. I grew up in a very more urban environment where, I could do shit. I could go to a mall, or I could go here, or I could do that. These guys would wake up, maybe go feed chickens or cows or whatever it is that they're doing. And then basically they're stuck out there to their own, unless they had one or two buddies that lived a couple miles in the holler or whatever. I don't know what they did because I wasn't there. I would never, ever be there. Not my ski load. Anyway, man, we're talking one day, and I see this guy, and he's always walking around. He's a little teeny fella, man. Like, and he didn't talk a lot, but he was in one of them cottages. But all of your, programs and stuff were down here in the school building. So you'd always see him walking with somebody. He didn't ever walk by himself. He was always with an adult, maybe 2 or 3. But he'd be escorted everywhere to go to these little programs, these schools, because you went to school. You were a child. You had to go to school. Real quiet, he had this dark black hair, dark eyes. I'll never forget his eyes. His eyes were just, to me, dead. One of those people that just had dead eyes. Didn't see much point in the world, probably. Didn't see much point in his own existence. And I remember asking a fellow one time, I said, what's going on with dude, man? What's he do? He's a chomo or something? This is right when I first learned that term, so I like to say it all the time. Chomo this, chomo that, or you're a chomo. He's a chomo, they're all chomos. Because I like the way it sounded, and it sounded funny to me. He said, nah, man. That ain't what he did. So, yeah, what'd he do? Story goes, Chop and his mother and father lived in one of those rural areas, and if I remember right, his father died was black lung from the coal mines. Well, his mama was left to take care of everything, and she was addicted to something. I don't know what exactly, but there was drug use there in the household, and there was a lot of different men coming in and out of the house, obviously, to help her pay for said addiction. I'm sure she was giving them a service. They were giving her a flat fee. Now, as a child, I can't even imagine what it must be like to see your mother be with multiple men in a day to support a drug habit. And then when you did have time with her, she was probably either twacked out of her mind or nodding and not paying much attention to you. So not only were you already growing up in an environment where you were secluded and alone, but the people or the person that was supposed to be there for you was not. And I don't know all the circumstances, but from what I heard was that there were times where, because he was so young at the time, I mean, this kid was like 12, 13 years old. He wasn't like a grown child, that she would allow the men to do stuff to him as well in order to get money to feed her habit. Now, it's a real scumbag thing to do, to lay on your back in front of your kid with multiple men a day, but to allow any other man to touch your child, boy or girl, makes you a real scumbag, and there is a special place in hell for people like that. That is what they make bullets for, in my opinion. Anyway, that being said, I think that Chop got tired of it and decided he was not big enough to fend off these men. He was not strong enough yet as a child to protect himself, and the woman that was supposed to be protecting him was allowing it to happen. Matter of fact, she was perpetuating it to happen for a buck, or for a sniff, or for a shot, smoke, whatever the hell that fucking bitch was doing. And he got tired of it. And he probably in his mind thought the only way that he could stop it was to take care of her. Now, I don't understand why he went as left as he did. But he walked into her bedroom one night. I think she was probably on a nod, or she was asleep, or whatever she was doing. And he took a ball-peen hammer and he cracked her in the head with it while she lay there. And he continued to crack her in that head until they said that there was nothing left of her head. It was pretty much a torso with a bashed-in piece of meat. He then proceeded to scoop the brain matter out of her head and other stuff. Put it in a frying pan, fried up on the stove, and then sat down at his dinner table and ate. I wonder what seasoning he used. Whew, because I bet that was gamey. But really, he sat down at his dinner table and ate that woman's head, probably her heart, whatever else he could dig in and find. From what I understood, one of the Johns is actually who came into the house and found the scene. And I can't imagine walking into some shit like that. Because I feel like, if you walk into a situation like that, what do you say to the kid? What do you say to the child, if anything? Cops come and lock him up. Now, I don't know exactly. From what I understood, it was juvenile life plus life. I don't think that he was ever going to go home. I think that, if anything, the state probably would have taken later on in consideration, because he would have been an old law, when he went up for parole. If we're at best, he's probably sitting in an asylum somewhere as a grown man, Beaumont or something like that, where he can be around other crazy motherfuckers and you know what I'm saying, and do his thing. Walk around in his house frock and his slippers and drool, Thorazine drools and whatever else they're going to do. I mean, what's the point of that? They should, you know, in my opinion, there's nothing left of your life once you do some shit like that. Or once you have gotten to that point. I don't think you ever come back from that. But I remember watching that kid walk up and down those sidewalks as a kid, man, and it never left my memory. And it was always some type of weird, like, and I've just tried to paint that picture for you guys in the best way that I could so you could get the picture that was presented to me in my brain as a child. You know, I always imagined like some probably run-down ass old shack of a house. Like an old wood stove or something burning. Not much light. Dark. Quiet. The only noises you would hear would be your mom in the back bedroom. And then trying to go and engage with her as a child, as a young boy who's lost his father, who maybe needed his mom. I think it was a compilation of everything that made him snap. And it's unfortunate because you never know what he could have been. But these are the types of kids that kids are locked up with when they go upstate. Just like these are the types of men we're locked up when we go to prison. You never unsee that. You never unthink that. You never ever forget stories like that. So, anyway, that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the story today and you got a little something out of it. You know, I know it was a little extreme, but it's been a while since I've made any videos. I've been holding this one on the back burner for a minute. I've been wanting to tell it. And I came to the house to make sure I got some videos out this weekend, and I hope that everyone's doing well and blessed. Much love to the Gladiator Gang, the Blue Collar Kings, and as always, ladies and gentlemen, you beautiful motherfuckers. Stay up, stay out, stay sucker free, man.